Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 284. It's an episode of Football Friends. And what that means is that I have a conversation with Brett Kollmann. We talked for about, well, really, the truth is, Brett and I talked for about an hour. We recorded for about 30 minutes. We kept talking for about 30 minutes after that, talking about life. Probably should have recorded it. Maybe next week. We're also hoping to get Brett Kollmann on camera next week. I think my highlight of the conversation, I don't fully know what I talked about with Brett. I believe that what I talked about with Brett was we talked about Tyrod Taylor and the potential legal action going on with the LA Chargers right now. That's I think the highlight of that conversation, but the most interesting little tidbit maybe. Look, Brett Kollmann and Tom Grossi are just guys I love. Again, I call this Football Friends because it's just talking about football with my friends. My favorite part of the Tom Grossi episode, other than the long, we kept saying for like the last 30 minutes, like, oh, one more thing. We kept talking, and we got into sharing some of our core values. I really enjoyed that. I shared some of the sponsorships that I avoid. It was interesting. Probably the thing that I might make out, a clip from that segment is the part where Tom Grossi says the one question he wishes he could ask Aaron Rodgers. It was very, very interesting to me to hear that. Tom and I had a long conversation. Probably 70% of it was not about football. It was just about life, and it was just fun for me. I got to catch up with a good friend of mine. So we'll start with the Brett Kollmann interview. Again, my favorite football nerd in the world. I love Brett Kollmann. He's a tremendous friend and ally to me behind the scenes. And as a side note, just because I'm selfish and I want to share my story, I recorded last night at 1 a.m. the episode 283. Then I stayed up all day. I've been putting out content all day. Got on the phone with Brett at 11:30. Got on the phone with Tom Grossi at 2 o'clock. It's now 3:28 p.m., and I still have not gone to sleep. Now, I'm okay. I'm very cognizant. I'm going to go to sleep immediately after putting out this episode. But I want you to know, the hours of doing this job are insane. And Brett and Tom very much understand that. Last week, people don't understand how much work Brett Kollmann does behind the scenes and how much research he does and how much stuff goes on. So I guess without further ado, I have no other way to intro it. Enjoy my conversation with Brett Kollmann. Joining me now is my favorite football nerd, Brett Kollmann. How are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I am surviving the Charger fan attack I've been getting. I'm sure you've been getting it too. Have you even seen the Justin Herbert game yet?
I have not seen the game yet. I've been working my way through Josh Allen this week because I'm doing a film room on him.
Awesome.
Eventually, I want to watch the Herbert debut before he plays against Carolina. I've only seen the highlights, and I mean, he made the kind of throws that we saw at Oregon where you're just like, oh my God, But then he had that one really bad pick where you're like, oh my God.
Well, he had both, right? He played exactly like he played at Oregon. Exactly.
Which is both good and bad.
Yeah.
I still got to watch the other 30 throws or whatever it is because I only turned on the game like the last 2 minutes, like right when Pat came back and, Butker got the 3 field goals and then Anthony Lynn made that stupid decision to punt on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Which I will never agree with ever. And weirdly enough, their odds of winning dropped like 7% as soon as they punted because why would you ever give the ball back to Pat Mahomes? But that's neither here or there. I do want to watch Herbert in depth just to see, what he looks like in an actual NFL team.
Well, let me ask, and I'd love to tell you what I saw. It'd be fun to hear tell you what I think and then hear what your opinion is later down the road. But what is it like from Chargers fans today? Because I'm getting crucified on the internet, and I'm okay with it. Like, it's part of the job. Is it like that for you too?
Well, Chargers fans haven't liked me for years because I made a film room episode on Joey Bosa after his rookie year saying that he was a really good player, but I didn't think that he was J.J. Watt or Khalil Mack.
Which is not.
I didn't think he was that level of pass rusher. And for some reason, that is like a horrific thing to say. Even though I said he was a really great player, I just didn't think he was J.J. Watt, which a lot of people were comparing him to J.J. Watt after his rookie year. And I'm like, this is not the same thing. So they've hated me ever since then. And then, of course, the one negative quarterback eval I put out before the draft ends up being a Chargers player. So they've just hated me even more ever since then. But I hope Justin Herbert succeeds, so maybe they'll stop being so freaking salty over in LA, but what can you do?
I hate the word hater because first of all, I grew up in Oregon, right? I have friends. My cousins live in Eugene. I actually know people that are family friends with the Herberts. They say that Justin's a great dude. Like, I've never heard a bad thing about Justin Herbert, the person, and I don't hate the guy. Like, in fact, I would love to see him do well. But on film, I go, a lot of problems. And that's our job, my job at least, is to be honest and say, here's what I see, right? And it's this uncomfortable thing where, like, you can predict a guy to not be great and still like them and hope they do well. Like, you can hope your prediction is wrong. Does that make sense to you? Like,
yeah, just like I had a lot of problems with Josh Allen on tape when he was coming out too. Everybody did.
Yeah.
But now we're in year 4? And a lot of those problems have been fixed. That's the outcome we hope for every single, I don't want to even say controversial, but every single semi-flawed quarterback prospect. We hope they can fix their issues within 3 or 4 years and then end up being a really good quarterback like Josh Allen is now. But unfortunately, not every quarterback that has flaws ends up fixing those flaws. Mariota didn't. Jameis, for the most part, didn't. He kind of amped up his good and amped up his bad at the same time down in Tampa Bay. We hope that Sean Payton can clean up the bad now that he's sitting behind Breeze in New Orleans. Derek Carr, I think he's been way more up and down than I think we expected since he came into the league, but it's not like his flaws are totally gone either. So, every single quarterback other than probably Andrew Luck, had significant flaws that we hoped would get better. Some of them do, some of them don't. Justin Herbert is so talented that we hope that he can follow that Josh Allen arc and clean up his flaws and be a really damn good quarterback. But, we won't know that for probably 3 or 4 years.
I had a line I'm proud of. I said, Justin Herbert, the question's never been, is he capable? The question is can he be consistent, right? There's high-level talent, obviously. And he even on Sunday did high-level stuff. But what follows with that is the interception on 2nd and 2 where he throws it back across his body, or taking a really bad sack instead of throwing it away, or underthrowing a deep ball where Mike Williams is wide open in the end zone. Little things like that, right? There you go. Man, it's just not consistent enough. That's kind of the consistent problem with him is there's not enough consistently. I know I'm using the word consistent a lot, but that's kind of the problem with Justin Herbert I've seen. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and honestly, you can tell the success or failure rate or the likely success or failure of a quarterback prospect, like a Justin Herbert, like a Josh Allen, based on the coaching staff they go to. Deshaun Kaiser, deeply flawed, extremely talented prospect, went to Hugh Jackson, failed immediately because Hugh Jackson is not a good developer of quarterbacks, as it turns out. That was a horrific situation for him to be in. He should not have played as a rookie. Nobody thought he should have played as a rookie, and it was a disaster. Josh Allen went to a coaching staff that was willing to protect him by any means necessary from himself, using a strong defense, a creative running game, not asking him to do too much for his first couple of years, while they brought him along as a passer, and that worked. Darnold went to Adam Gase, who everything Adam Gase touches dies, offensively speaking. It really depends on the coaching staff these guys go to. Again, unless they're like an Andrew Luck, where even Chuck Pagano can go to the AFC Championship game if you have Andrew Luck. Justin Herbert, I think, ended up in a good situation because I happen to like Anthony Lynn. I happen to like the staff they have there. Yeah. I love their weapons. I love their support system. He kind of lucked out by going to that situation.
Yeah.
Will that mean that he's going to be amazing, right from the go? Probably not, but I like his chances long-term just because of where he ended up.
Do you want to talk about the other Chargers quarterback? I'd love to read you something.
Sure.
So I read this a couple minutes ago. The Chargers team doctor accidentally punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung just before kickoff Sunday while trying to administer a pain-killing injection to the quarterback's cracked ribs. And I've heard that that's a common risk of doing that with cracked ribs, is you can puncture the lung. But have you heard about that yet? That's insane to me. I go, wow, okay.
That's got to be like some kind of medical malpractice suit waiting to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And I also think that was probably why Anthony Lynn came out so aggressively saying Tyrod's the starter, Tyrod's the starter, Tyrod's the starter, because if they cost him a starting position with a medical, malpractice,
a lot of money.
that's a lot of money. That's a big lawsuit. Like, I think he was emphasizing he's the starter when he comes back, so that it isn't their own doctor that cost him all of that potential.
The whole thing seemed
future
weird,
earnings.
didn't it? The whole entire from the get-go, it didn't seem quite right, and now we know why it didn't seem quite right, because it wasn't quite right.
Yeah. There was a legal argument that they were making.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so bizarre. I feel bad for him, because Tyrod is not going to blow you away, but he's very solid, and I think it's kind of compelling to me to watch him on Hard Knocks, where he's getting there at like 5 a.m. doing workouts, and I go, I mean, he's doing a lot of work that a veteran leader should do. I don't know what to make of Tyrod. He's not that great, but I like him. Does that make sense?
I like him as a person, as a quarterback. He's never going to be a long-term answer.
Yeah.
Because
he's duct tape.
He's duct tape. But I think I would be very curious if Justin Herbert goes out there and lights people up, if they still have Tyrod start a game when he comes back, just to try to get away from the lawsuit.
Well, do you think?
Because I mean, like, this is like a legitimate legal problem for them in terms of impacting future earnings.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it wasn't a football activity that caused the injury. Like, this was their doctor screwing up. And if Justin Herbert goes out there and lights it up, and then he doesn't get his starting job back because of that, he can claim, like, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure he can claim that their own doctor cost him his starting position and potentially millions in future earnings. And I have no idea what that kind of lawsuit would look like. But like, I'm legitimately very curious to see what happens here, and the decision that they might be forced to be made for at least a game when he becomes healthy enough to play, just to maybe avoid a lawsuit.
Such a wild thought. It's just crazy to me.
Wild situation. I've never seen anything like it before.
Is it bad that I'm smiling? I'm kind of like, just the drama excites me as much as I'm ashamed to say that. I'm like, ooh, sounds interesting.
It's definitely new. I'll give you that.
I don't want to ruin your video. As you know, I know you're working on a Josh Allen film, a film room episode. Can we gush about it though? Because what I saw on film was incredible. I went, oh my gosh. I mean, he had that long ball down the sideline too. Stephon Diggs had like 30 catches, it felt like. I enjoyed watching Josh Allen. I don't want to ruin your video and your episode, but is there anything you can give me? I don't want to. I want to be careful here because I want to respect you, and I don't want to step over bounds.
I mean, the game is slowing down for him. That much we can see. Whether it's zone or man, he's doing a lot better job of working through progressions quickly. When plays break down, he's getting a lot better at manipulating defenders in space so that he can create throwing windows and not just running. His ball placement has been so much more improved. Not perfect, but improved.
Yeah.
Mechanically speaking, there's a few different things he's doing with his feet this year. Most notably, he's kind of added this hop with his front foot, which I've seen pop up a lot recently.
Does it remind you of Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, Rodgers did it for a long time, or still does it for a long time, which Rodgers always said that he did it to kind of help protect his knees. Jimmy G was doing it in San Francisco, and Allen's doing it now. And what it kind of does is, if you're not really comfortable with like kind of spinning on that front toe so that you can bring the back hip through in rotation, you'll kind of see some guys hop on the front foot to kind of keep their front knee from locking out, and it helps keep them from stalling in their rotation so they can get all the way through and be more accurate. And we're seeing Allen do that this year. And when he does lock out his front knee, the ball kind of drag on him, be behind receivers. It'll really hamper his rotation. But then when he does that front foot hop, keeps his knee from locking, brings the back hip through. I mean, it's perfect. And we saw that last week against Miami. So kind of these little mechanical tweaks, I think, have done wonders for improving his ball placement. Again, as I mentioned, the decision making is better. Defenses are still going to catch him a couple times a game, where he'll kind of rush something that he sees pre-snap, and then he won't see a hang corner waiting for him. Kyle Van Noy dropped a pick six because he just didn't see him. There was another one where there was a match 3 coverage where Miami gave man indicators off motion, so he thought he was clear, but there was a hang corner. And Diggs still caught the ball, but it went through a defender's hands to get there. So a couple times a game, there's still going to be some issues. There's going to be some missed reads. There's going to be some throws he wants back. But on balance, like, he is so much further ahead than where he was as a rookie. And the fact that he's making all these mistakes and still throwing for 350 a game is remarkable. Like, this is the final product that, I'll give an example, that the Chargers hope Herbert will be in 3 years. Because if Herbert turns into this, when he and Allen, I think, were similar prospects, I mean, that's a Super Bowl team.
For sure. Have you seen the end zone view? I'm sure you have, of the final 2 touchdowns Josh Allen threw?
Against Miami?
Yeah. Just beautiful. Like, he steps up in the pocket, I think, on the second to last one. It just, I watched that, I'm like, oh, that's just beautiful football. It just is awesome.
It's just amazing that he's throwing for 400 yards, and you're still like, God, he left another 100 yards on the table. Like there was a seam ball that he ripped to Beasley against the Jets, against Single High. And I mean, it was a bullet, a big gain, but he could have led it and it would have been a 70-yard touchdown. So he's still he's still getting huge gains, but there's so much more on top of that he could get. And it's exciting to me because you see the results and you see a really productive offense that kind of can go even higher.
Well, his touch is new too. I think that's really fun to watch.
Yeah, the touch is definitely a new thing for him, and it's
gorgeous.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm excited to watch the Bills and Patriots at some point this year. I just look at that matchup and go, this is going to be so much fun. Is that how you feel?
It's a barn burner. I think it's going to decide the division because, Miami, I think we like where Miami's heading, but I don't think we really think they're going to compete for the division. The Jets are a total mess. And right now I think it's Pats and Bills all the way.
How long until Adam Gase is gone, you think?
I mean, sooner the better. I think it honestly, if they were smart, they would do it before the bye week, whenever that is. And I would immediately start conversations with Eric Bieniemy. I would try to beat every other team that's racing to get Bieniemy
from Kansas City.
Yeah, the OC for Kansas City, who's I feel like he's been waiting for 2 years now.
Yeah,
for an opportunity.
He has. It seems like that. How about that Seahawks-Patriots game? I talked about you on my episode this morning that came out. I said, I hope that Brett Kollmann someday does like a film room episode about this game because it's one of my favorite games I've watched in a long, long time. Were you as enamored with that game as I was?
It had everything. It had crazy throws from Russ. It had some really good defensive plays. It had a battle between a defending, defensive player of the year award winner and a young up and coming receiver that's got a chip on his shoulder. It had, Jamal Adams. It had, Cam Newton, showing that he is healthy and, throwing for damn near 400 yards, which he hadn't even done since a rookie, and he was doing it on a Seahawks secondary that, again, featured Jamal and Dunbar and Diggs until he got thrown out, obviously, and, Shaq Griffin. Like, that's a good secondary that he was throwing for almost 400 yards on, and it had this crazy, unstoppable goal line package that was working all game until the last play. Like, there was so many layers to that game. From a narrative perspective, from a scheme perspective, from a talent perspective, from, just a storyline perspective. Like, it was incredible. Yeah. That was one of my favorite regular season games I've seen in a long time.
Did you notice on that final play, first and goal from the 2-yard line, 2 seconds left, from the 1-yard line, 2 seconds left, they ran the exact same motion even as they did on the touchdown previously, where they sent the fullback, then they sent the running back, then they sent Cam Newton. It was just like exactly the same. I have to wonder if you're the Seahawks defense, you go, there goes the fullback. There goes the running back in motion. It's going to be, I mean, we all knew it was Cam again. I think that's the right call because it's your best play with your best player. Is that do you agree with that? Should they have tried something? My fear is you try to get cute on the 1-yard line and you might as well, if you're going to lose, you might as well lose running your best play with your best player. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't hate the call, but I will say the entire time leading up to that play, I expected a jump pass. I thought they were going to show it, have Cam tuck and start to move, and then do a little jump pass over the top. Like I thought it was like, surely there's going to be a wrinkle off this, right? And then there wasn't.
No.
And it wasn't a bad decision to do it, but I definitely think that they're going to incorporate, if they didn't exist before, they're definitely going to exist now. I think they're going to incorporate wrinkles off of that. Because I think there's a couple touchdowns off play action or a jump pass or, some sort of misdirection. Maybe that you can build a counter off of that play, whatever they're going to do. Cam said after the game, maybe we went to the well one too many times.
Yeah.
I half agree with that, but at the same time, as you said, they hadn't stopped it all day, so you might as well keep doing it.
Well, they also had that play on the goal line where they ran the quarterback power look, and then Cam backed off and threw to the running back. I think it was running back or the fullback for the touchdown. So they had shown a similar look and then with a wrinkle on it earlier in the game. So it could have gone either way, I guess, if you're Seattle on defense. Is this the best Cam you've ever seen?
Ooh, it's tough to compete with 2015 Cam because 2015 Cam was truly unstoppable. A little bit wild, but unstoppable.
But this is a different Cam. To me,
this is a more efficient Cam, a more deliberate Cam. This is, I almost want to say it's like the final form of Cam as a passer. Mm-hmm. He's definitely not as dynamic of a runner as he used to be because he's older now and he's taken a pretty significant beating throughout his career. But as a passer, I think this is the best we've ever seen Cam be.
I wonder, that the sales pitch to get Cam Newton there, I would imagine Bill Belichick says, look, we're not going to pay you. You've been injured 2 years in a row, but come here and we'll make you the best quarterback you've ever been. I wonder if that's kind of the pitch to say, we know you think you're capable of more. We can get more out of you. Come here, we'll coach you better than you've ever had. And it seems like the Patriots have not been afraid to challenge him, which I wonder if Carolina, I wonder if they felt limited by what they knew Cam was, whereas the Patriots seem to see what Cam Newton could become, if that makes sense. Cam is doing different stuff than I've ever seen with timing, with accuracy, and maybe I just didn't watch enough Cam, and that's very possible. I watched on Sunday and went, I love watching this version of Cam Newton. It's a blast for me.
If the Panthers felt limited by Cam, that's their own fault. Because he's one of the true...
No. I think maybe they limited... Like, they saw Cam as what he was at Auburn, whereas the Patriots, I think, might have had more vision saying, we can turn Cam into X, right? Is that stupid to say? Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I think that when they actually dug into the film and they saw how good he was in the quick game, they saw how good he was in empty, they saw how good he was in hurry up, they saw him as a field general... I think they looked at him and said, look, he plays like Tom Brady if Tom Brady ran 4.5. Like, he stylistically, as a passer, he's very, very pretty similar to Tom Brady. Like, and I did multiple film rooms on this. Like,
people still push back. I'm like, did you watch Brett's video? Like,
he's a field general. Like, when he's allowed to spread teams out, find matchups, distribute the ball underneath, he's one of the best quick game passers in the league. Everybody always thinks of him as some crazy deep ball thrower, like a Jay Cutler type. And it's like, that's not what he is. Like, he's literally only had like 2 years in his career where he was a top 10 deep ball thrower, past 20 yards. Literally 2. And one of them was the MVP year where he just went crazy. But for the majority of his career, he's been quick and intermediate throws, giving you +1 in the run game with all the option stuff, the zone read stuff. Like, he is stylistically very similar to Tom Brady as a passer. He just adds more to the run game. And I'll tell you what, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. I think that is indisputable at this point. There is zero chance a Tom Brady-led Patriots offense would have put up 30 points and been within one play of winning that game. Zero chance.
That's wild. That's so cool. Do you think Cam is better? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to compare Cam to old Tom Brady. Like, I don't know. I just enjoy this. I love watching the Patriots this year. It feels like a special treat. And I wish, I hope someday we get like a documentary or something to hear the story of how the Patriots got Cam Newton for that minimum salary. Like, Andy Dalton makes more money than Cam Newton. That's crazy to me. I watched that game Sunday.
If you listen to what he said, his contract this year is not about money, it's about respect. He wants to show that he can be healthy and win a hell of a lot of games, and then the money will take care of itself later.
I love that.
So he went to a team where he knows, like, I'm going to have a defense, I'm going to have a coaching staff that knows what they're doing. We're going to win a lot of games in a division where there's really only one other team that we kind of have to fight to get it. Where, if he went to the Bears, he'd have to go against Green Bay, he'd have to go against Minnesota. Well, at least back when we thought Minnesota was going to be a really good team. It was the AFC East was his easiest path to showing that he can still win a lot of games and be an effective quarterback, if not a great quarterback. And so I don't think he really cared what he made this year. I think he said it best when he's like, I got enough money. I want to show I could still do it.
What's telling is not complaining about it still. Like, he's doubling down and tripling down on, no, I'm here to win. I mean, that's pretty clear from everything you hear him talk about and the way he's really been very vocal about, I don't want to talk about my contract. Kind of like Bill Belichick saying, like, you see him in the past in press conferences saying, we're on to Seattle. Cam Newton's not going to even entertain that conversation.
No, because Cam, regardless of what the media says, Cam is a great leader. He's always been a great leader. You know, the locker room in Carolina ran through Cam. He was a monolithic personality and an extremely hard worker. I mean, extremely hard worker. And I think a lot of people had a lot of biases against Cam because of, like, his flamboyance or you know,
I know I did.
bombastic
Unfairly.
personality.
Yeah.
But he's always been that kind of guy, you know, the field general that people want to play with and play for. And so I think he's always been a perfect fit with Belichick and McDaniels and the Patriots culture. I think this was honestly, like, this was bound to happen. Like, they were going to be a good team with Cam, regardless of the fact that their number one receiver is a 34-year-old Julian Edelman, and that they don't have a great tight end anymore, and that N'Keal Harry, we're still not sure what we're going to get. And, you know, Sony Michel is their number one running back, and he's got almost zero juice. And the better running back is Harris, and he's on IR. Like, there's not a whole lot to work with. Like, their legendary offensive line coach that kept Tom Brady alive for 2 decades retired, and he's no longer there. Like, there is not a whole lot around Cam, and they're still putting up 30 points and coming within one play of beating a really, really good Seattle team in Seattle.
Have you seen
There's
the video?
only a
Good. No, good.
I was just saying, there's only a handful of quarterbacks in the league that can do that, and he's one of them. So, like, the Patriots are here to stay.
That's awesome. I've found that I'm really a big Bill Belichick fan. I always thought maybe I was a Tom Brady fan, and as they broke up, I've really gravitated a lot more towards. I care more about Belichick, which is interesting to me. I never would have expected that, but I've been diving into, like, his history with the Jets. I watched the Jets press conference yesterday. I'm just so fascinated and impressed with Bill Belichick. I think Brady's obviously incredible. I think he's going to win a lot this year. I think the jury's still out there, but Belichick's genius just really, really is so fascinating to me. I love the way his mind works, and his vision to see Cam and say, we're going to bring him in and win a lot of games with him is so cool to me, because everybody else in the NFL decided not to take a chance.
Yeah, if this season for the Bears goes the way I think it might end up going, Ryan Pace is going to have some answering to do, because this is a pretty egregious miss from him.
Yeah. Well, to get Foles too, and Foles hasn't seemed to pan out either. It's like,
I mean, I think part of the reason why maybe Cam didn't go to Chicago, and this is just from what I've heard from people around that team, is that you know, even Teddy Bridgewater, you know, his camp kind of alluded to this too, that any competition with Mitch Trubisky would favor Mitch Trubisky, because the regime there wants Mitch to be a thing. Like, they still want Mitch to succeed.
You ever heard the definition of insanity?
I'm not saying that's the correct decision.
Brett, you ever heard the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again and hoping the results change?
Yep. And that's exactly what happens in Chicago. And it's been not 1 or 2, it's been 4 years. Why is it not ending? It's crazy to me.
I think honestly they want it because they have a very soft schedule in terms of defenses they face until Tampa in week 5. I think they wanted to build up Mitch's confidence against some pretty weak defenses, which, I mean, they're 2-0. It's working so far.
Yep.
Get him halfway through the season. Hopefully he has good games against Tampa. When their defensive schedule starts to get a lot harder in the middle of the season, and then see where he is. And if they want to bring in Foles, then whatever. But I think this is Mitch's last chance, or like, we're going to give him the bottom feeders to beat up on. And if he does that, and if he does well, whatever, he can keep the job. But if he crashes and burns again, then we've got Nick Foles. But I think they knew if they started Nick Foles and then Nick didn't work out and then they went back to Mitch, like, both of them would be over.
Yeah, it's true. Have you seen the video of Cam Newton with Greg Olsen at midfield of the Seahawks game?
Oh, yeah, I saw them kind of reuniting. It was great.
That was cool, huh?
they're best friends.
Yeah.
They played together for a long time. They respect each other, and Greg is, again, he's one of those guys that understands that he was probably one of the few people in that stadium that knew Cam was going to take them till the last play.
Yeah. Why did the Panthers move on from Cam? I mean, was it just they wanted to reset everything?
Matt Rule, when he gets to a new team, he has a reputation for blowing everything up, tearing it down to the studs, and completely rebuilding.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of it. I don't think they had any like hard feelings with Cam.
I don't either.
But I think it's a new coach that came in. He didn't draft Cam. He didn't stake his career on Cam. He got a big contract for a lot of years. He's like, look, this guy's been injured for 2 years in a row. We're not going to compete this year, most likely. We have to completely rebuild the defense. We still have to solidify some parts of the offensive line. Like I think he thought, I'm going to rip it down to the studs. I'm going to get a quarterback who's familiar with our offensive system, because remember, Teddy Bridgewater is already familiar with the terminology, having spent time in New Orleans, that Joe Brady uses, who also uses a modification of the Sean Payton offense with a lot of the same terminology. So he's like, I'm going to bring this guy in for a lot less money than the going rate for a quarterback who already knows our system, and we're going to lose a lot of games, but in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be really good. He did it at Temple. He did it at Baylor. He always tears teams down and then builds them up in his image. So I think releasing Cam, in a way, they probably thought they were doing Cam a solid by not keeping him on a bad team.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Cam's going to win more games than the Panthers this year anyway, so it's probably better for Cam long term, but I totally understand why Cam felt slighted by it.
Yeah, well, it hurts when you get broken up with. But it's funny, Panther fans, or I guess, Cam Newton fans that used to be Panther fans, right? They kind of went with Cam when he left. Were so angry he got left, and the reality is it ended up being as you just said, the right thing and the best thing for Cam long term, because Cam's going to have a way more enjoyable year in New England than he would have losing, 12 or 13 games in Carolina.
Yeah, and I know he's still upset by it. I know it still drives him because he wanted to be part of building up that franchise again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's got a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, it's whether he agrees or not consciously, it's best for him to be in New England right now.
How cool is that? When the Patriots had Jarrett Stidham, let's say 6 months ago, right? Tom Brady left. We think Jarrett Stidham might be their quarterback. There was no chance of a Super Bowl in my mind. Now with Cam, I go, you know what? This team, they took the Seahawks to the final play. Do you think that's a crazy swing? Like, because am I wrong? Like, Jarrett Stidham never gave me a lot of confidence. It was kind of like, we'll see. Maybe they're tanking. I don't think that was ever going to happen because Belichick wants to win. But how crazy is that emotional swing and that swing in their franchise with Cam now? I love that. It's so cool to me.
Cam added 3 wins to their schedule by himself. I think with Jarrett Stidham, that's especially considering all the opt-outs, it's probably 8-8, 9-7 type team. With Cam, that's an 11 or 12 win team. I think they are going to be an extremely tough out. As long as the defense stays healthy, they're going to be an extremely tough out. And as Cam gets more comfortable with the system, again, regardless of who his weapons are, he took friggin' an offense that had Ted Ginn as his number 1 receiver to the Super Bowl. Like, they're going to be fine. Yeah. Like, I think his number 1 tight end, because, what was it? Actually, I guess technically Greg Olsen was his number 1 receiver, but number 1 wide receiver was Ted Ginn. Like, it takes a special player to be able to do that, and he's a special player. So this is an 11 or 12 win Patriots team, in my opinion. They're probably going to drop one to Buffalo because Buffalo's really good. Yeah. I think they play Baltimore and Kansas City still, if I remember correctly.
I believe so too, yeah.
So
let me look it up.
There's no way they beat both of them. At most, they'll probably go 1-1, depending on if the defense has a good day. I would probably think that they're going to have a harder time with Baltimore than Kansas City, but...
I think we talked enough about Cam. I don't want to look at their schedule. I want to ask you a question because I am fascinated by people that are a fan of a certain team. Have you ever heard my story about why I'm not a fan of any team?
Because you love football, I'm assuming.
No, sure, but I was a Seattle Mariners fan as a kid. And the
Okay.
Mariners broke my heart over and over. Like, they traded away people like Raul Ibanez. They traded for Eric Bedard. They got rid of Adam Jones. Like, there were so many moves when I was like 9, 10, 11. I went, I'm 11 years old, and I know that's a bad move. And I'm like, I cannot emotionally invest myself in this team anymore. I just refuse to do it. And if you know where I'm going, my question is, why in the world are you still a Houston Texans fan? I don't understand why you put yourself through that. And I'm asking as a friend, Brett. I don't really get it, man. Please explain to me.
I think to answer that question, you'll have to talk to any Eagles fan that follows your channel. And Eagles fans can chime in the comments below. They put up with so much for so long, so much disappointment, so much heartbreak. And they're going through it again this year. They're 0-2. Wentz doesn't look the same. The defense looks terrible. But every single time they go to bed at night, they think about that Brandon Graham strip sack. And they think about they won a Super Bowl. And they think about the highs. Even if it's only one high in like 100 years that came from winning that Super Bowl.
I don't get it, man.
They
No
will
way.
tell you, all to a man, it was worth it.
That's crazy to me.
I'm hoping before I die, I will get that feeling.
I respect that, actually. The desire to say, like, you know what experience you want, right? That's cool to me.
And every Eagles fan would tell you the same thing. Every who's another every Chiefs fan, the younger Chiefs fans that never experienced a Super Bowl, they experienced so much playoff heartbreak.
Brody Croyle.
Andrew Luck coming back from like 27 points. They went through that shit. And here they are now. Like they will tell you it's worth it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I respect it. I respect it. I had somewhere else I was going to go with that. Why not be just a Deshaun Watson fan?
Well, if you're a Clemson football fan who casually roots for the Texans, that's probably why. There's a lot of Clemson fans that root for the Texans now because of Deshaun, and I would imagine that wherever Trevor Lawrence goes, it's going to be a similar situation.
Yeah.
And Deshaun's an easy guy to root for.
Oh yeah.
And I will always even if we, for whatever reason, if a Cam Newton situation pops up where Deshaun doesn't play with us for his whole career, I will always root for Deshaun, no matter where he goes.
That's cool.
But I was a Texans fan before Deshaun. I'm going to be a Texans fan after Deshaun.
Crazy,
regrettably, but I will be.
Okay, I guess my last question, and by the way, I want people to know, my studio right now is covered in wires just all over the place. I hope someday it'd be fun to get you on camera if we ever can do that. I think it'd be a fun tease, like maybe someday we can make that happen. We can get Brett on camera. I saw a tweet you put out a while back about a jalapeno seed, and I forget what happened now, but my impression was you had a jalapeno seed. Jalapeno or jalapeno? How do you say that? I don't know. Correct me in the comments. I think so. Whatever. I heard you had one in your eye. Is that true?
Yeah. So
How?
This was the first. Oh, it's bullshit, dude. It's so bullshit. Okay, so it's the first Sunday of the season. I'm emptying out some slice them in half, emptying out some jalapenos because I made like a chorizo cream cheese, so I could do some bacon wrap jalapeno poppers. And so I'm using a spoon. I'm emptying out this half of a jalapeno, and like the spoon slips and it flicks a jalapeno seed perfectly under my eyelid. And I don't know if you've ever experienced like jalapeno oil in your eye. Imagine a jalapeno seed under your eyelid that you cannot get out.
Nope. No.
And so I put I couldn't see. Like I thought I was going blind.
Yeah.
So I put my face under the sink to try to like open up my eyelid and have the water wash it out, which is a terrible idea, by the way, because the water will actually spread the oil all over your face. So my entire face was on fire. And I literally used probably half a gallon of milk, just putting it on paper towels and just dabbing
I imagine
my
you just
face.
pouring it on your face. That'd be so funny. That image of you.
I really wanted to, but I was literally just drenching my face in milk for probably a solid half an hour. It was excruciating.
Were the poppers worth it?
Do not recommend.
Because the poppers look good.
Oh, the poppers were excellent. The pain to get to the poppers was terrible. Absolutely horrible.
I got to say, and I don't want to just invite myself over to your house, but I every time I look at your Twitter on game day, it's just better and better food. I want to compliment you because you seem to really know how to enjoy a football game based on what you drink and what you eat during game day. It's so cool to me to see.
And the good thing, and you know this about being on the West Coast, is we don't even have to be awake until 11:30. So the Sunday night game is actually at dinner time for us. So we can start a smoke early in the morning and have the ribs be ready, by like 4 or 5 o'clock, just in time for the Sunday game. And then you're chowing down for the next 3.5 hours. Whereas a lot of people, on the East Coast, their second game starts at like 4:30, and their last game doesn't start till 8:30. So,
dude, no, Brett, I got an even better plan. So when the smoke rolled in, and I couldn't leave my house for 2 weeks, it felt like I was miserable, and COVID's been terrible. I started looking at the Big Island of Hawaii, and Monday Night Football starts at like 1 o'clock there. I'm like, dude, it'd be great. I could do so much because I could literally record Sunday night after football. It'd be so much easier for me to have everything move back like a little bit, or I guess move forward. What's that? Yeah, it'd be earlier in the day. What football would be. I would be so down for all that. I know you're probably like hell no, but for me to have football at like 6 in the morning. Oh, dude, I could just get up.
But, it would be okay. But I weep for all the people that have office jobs in Honolulu and can't watch Monday Night Football ever.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't have that problem because that's my job. But yeah, that is true. That is terrible. But think about it. Like what I do now is I record a bunch of games. Usually I miss about like the first half of the Sunday morning games anyway, and then I pick the best one and watch that, record it after the fact, so I can like skip through commercials and nonsense. In Hawaii, like everything's recorded. You're just like, okay, I get up at 10. What's available? Watch everything I want throughout the day. Record at like 8 o'clock. It's out Monday morning on the East Coast at like 6 a.m. Bam. I already don't sleep. I might as well just lean into the schedule. I think it'd be. I haven't slept tonight yet, by the way. I recorded last night at 1 in the morning. Here we are now. It's 11 o'clock the next day. I don't know. I never sleep. It's terrible.
Jeez, dude.
I know. I'm rambling. I should probably let you go, man. First, dude, thank you so much for your time. It's been really fun. I love talking to you, and you're so accommodating behind the scenes. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely. I really enjoy coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
Well done, man. Let's touch base next time, and hopefully we can get Brett on video. That'd be so much fun. Brett, thank you so much, and you're awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I love Brett, man. One of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. I hope we can rendezvous, and I want to. His food he makes on game day is so cool. I'd love to come taste it someday at his house, or whether he comes to my place, whatever. It'd be so cool and fun, and we could record a podcast like live and in person. It'd be incredible. Now, I want to shift gears to my conversation with Tom Grossi. This is a long one. It's fun. We talk about football for like 30 minutes. Then the rest of it's just about life and about our core values. It's interesting. It's weird. It's just a conversation with two friends having a good time. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Tom Grossi. Joining me now is my favorite Packer fan, Tom Grossi. Tom, how's life? What's going on?
What's going on, buddy? Good to speak to you once again.
Well, hey, so no toaster bath because the Packers won this week. So that's good, right?
Oh, yes, there was no toaster bath. Instead, we had some champagne with the toasters because, oh boy.
What is
First
it when
week, we're like, hey, 40 points, let's do it again.
Well, what is it? I know it's Vikings tears when you beat the Vikings. What happens when you beat the Lions?
Yes.
Is there any special thing there?
Honestly, like, we just move about our day like we didn't play a game because...
Just another week.
It's in comedy, you don't punch down. And every time you beat the Lions, like, that's not something really to gloat about. It's just like, that's what's supposed to happen.
I kind of, this is weird, but I cannot believe how many, I always, I've never really done a film analysis of Matthew Stafford. I've always just kind of gone on the assumption that he must be like pretty good and the Lions organization around him just is the problem. Dude, 2 weeks in a row, I've watched Matthew Stafford throw really bad, embarrassing interceptions and gone, oh, maybe it's Matthew Stafford. Like, you've been an NFC North fan for a long time. Is that your impression of Matthew Stafford? Like, he's just kind of a bonehead? What are your thoughts on Stafford?
I actually think that Stafford is one of the best QBs when he's healthy and ready to go. I
Yeah.
mean, he definitely has made mistakes over these past couple weeks, but I think, you kind of mentioned it in the first part, like the guy hasn't had a team around him for, I would argue, the majority of his career, right? He had Calvin Johnson for a little bit. He had Megatron. And then like that went away. He's never had a running game. His offensive line literally wants him to die. Like, it's just, there's a lot there in which I would argue if you're going to fix anything, Stafford isn't the problem. Now, that's not to say that like, maybe the train has left the station or, he's just not going to be the guy that's going to take them into this new era. But yeah, I would not put the onus on Matthew Stafford for the Lions being pretty terrible for years.
I've become a really big nerd about Bill Belichick. It's kind of crazy. And I know we weren't planning on talking about this, but I wanted to share because I'm interested in your thoughts on it all. The video of Bill Belichick and his final press conference as the head coach of the New York Jets, really the press conference where he steps down, is so fascinating to me because it's really kind of a lesson in making sure you're not setting yourself up for failure, where he realized the Jets were a bad situation to be in. And you had to wonder about guys like, God bless Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow's in a franchise that's going to have problems. And Matthew Stafford is in a similar situation where he was a number 1 overall pick, got paid a lot of money, sure, but was he ever really set up to succeed at all? And it's interesting to me, and I know this is a weird round, I'm not even sure if it's a question, but that Bill Belichick had the foresight to go, yeah, I'm not going to succeed as a head coach in New York with the Jets, and I don't think he would have. And if he had taken that Jets job, we'd never really know how good Bill Belichick was because he never would have had the opportunity probably to succeed in New England. It's kind of crazy how things worked out that way. He actually, by turning down a job, probably saved his career, which is crazy to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like, you and I have spoken about this too. Like it's fascinating to me, like those QBs that like could have made it, right? The ones that like if they just went to a team where they could have sat for a little bit, if they had some resemblance of an organization around them, how many like, and obviously he played really well. I look at an Andrew Luck and I'm just like, that's a tragedy. Right? The fact that he hadn't had an offensive line for years and just took beating after beating after beating. You look at even an RG3, right? Who like his first season was really, really good, suffers an injury. They play him anyway on terrible field conditions, and he's never the same after that. I think it's, it just speaks to the importance of having an organization that knows what the hell they're doing. And I really hope, even though, I was able to watch the Thursday night game between Cleveland and Cincinnati, and I loved everything I saw from Joe Burrow. And this is his second game. Like the way that he just stood so confidently and poised in that pocket, I was like, ooh, you don't see that from a guy playing his second NFL game. And I just like pray that the Bengals don't find a way to mess it up.
I was talking with Brett Coleman. Literally, we got off the phone like an hour ago, and we were just talking about how to succeed as a quarterback in the NFL, as a young quarterback, there's so many factors that the quarterback can't control that he's dependent on. Like the organization around him is so important. I mean, part of the benefit, like it'll be really interesting. I've been very, I've been a non-believer. I've been a skeptic of Justin Herbert, for example, but he's really set up to have a great situation around him with really good coaching, good receivers. I love Anthony Lynn, the head coach. Pep Hamilton, the quarterback coach, is awesome. He's a former DC Defenders XFL team head coach. Like Justin Herbert's in a great situation. It's just I know we had no plan to talk about any of this stuff, but it's so interesting to me. Like what makes a good quarterback succeed often is just the people around him. I mean, watching Cam Newton on Sunday Night Football really kind of opened my eyes to wow, Tom Brady really did have an incredible support system around him for his 20-odd years in New England.
Yeah. No, I completely and totally agree with that. And, I think you look at like the Matt Castles of the world, right? Or even Jimmy Garoppolo, just talking about like, guys who have gone through like the New England system, right? And have looked good in the New England system. And listen, like I know the talk of like Tom Brady being a system QB and all that great stuff. I think that Tom Brady is an incredibly talented QB. But I think, it's not taking anything away from him by saying, good God, like Belichick has laid a foundation there that has been phenomenal and is built around all of those players' strengths to make them look as good as possible. And that's why, like, you know, you look at a guy like Nate Solder, for example, right? How great is he in New England? And then he goes to New York and he's terrible. And how many times do you see that with like former coaches of like New England, and then they go to other places and they're terrible? And I think that, like you just said, it speaks to the environment that's created there. And like, that's kind of like a really cool thing of just like, you go to a place and if you buy into it, you know, and this is why guys for New England, like they take pay cuts to work there because they know this is the place that I am most set up to succeed.
What's interesting, they gave Stephon Gilmore a ton of money, right? I wonder if they actually view that as a bargain. Like maybe Stephon Gilmore, because he got like, I think $22 million guaranteed or something like that, but maybe he could have made way more on the open market. The Patriots go, we're paying him less than every other team in the NFL would. It's just interesting to me, all that stuff. Like, he was the defensive player of the year. I think he's still making, like, way less than other guys who are in a similar position. It's like, But he wants to be there. He's most successful there.
I mean, you look at Cam Newton, right? Like, Cam Newton literally took, like, a dirt poor contract to go there. And look at how he's looked the past 2 weeks, right? Like, he's been set up for success. And regardless if the Patriots wind up signing him to a long-term deal or not, Cam Newton's probably going to get paid a lot of money after this year. It might not be with the Patriots, but they're going to be like, here's this platform, here you go. And Cam knows that, right? I will take less money now to go and have a lucrative contract in the future, regardless of what team it's going to be with.
Dude, how bad do the Bears look, right? They have Trubisky, and they could have signed Cam Newton, and they did not.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're a Chicago fan, at what point you're just like, we could have had like every quarterback at some point, and we still chose Mitch Trubisky. And listen, you know, they're 2-0. I say that with like all the emphasis I can because, you know, there's a really strong argument to be like, yeah, how good is that 2-0 though? Like that's one of those organizations that you look at too that I'm just like, oh, okay, that's a thing that's happening there. I mean, listen, as a Packers fan, I'm all for it. I'm all
Chaos
for it.
in Chicago is good for you.
100%. You know, when like the Giants are coming back and you don't even have Saquon Barkley and like they're actually like legitimately close to winning the game, that's when you know, like, oh, okay, we're doing something wrong. Or the only reason you won the Detroit game is because DeAndre Swift dropped the game-winning touchdown. Like there's problems. And I feel like at some point, you know, for the Chicago team, like it's just going to hit them in the face. And as you and I talked about the first week, then it's bringing Nick Foles time. But I don't know if that's going to help it.
Why do you think the Bears ownership keeps supporting Ryan? So Ryan Pace is the Bears general manager. He appears to make mistake after mistake, and they're on the. I talked with Brett about this. They're on like the borderline of the definition of insanity, where they just keep trying the same thing over and over again, and it's not working. Why do you think they keep bankrolling Ryan Pace in Chicago?
So it's funny you asked that because I have asked the exact same question of Bears fans when they come on my show. And last year, I was talking to a Bears fan, and he brought up some interesting points. He goes, okay, he gets a lot of crap for Trubisky, right? But he also has some great draft picks, right? Like an Eddie Jackson, amazing value there. He brings in these guys, right, who like David Montgomery, who do really well. And because of that, I feel like he does just enough that like they're like, okay, like we can keep him, like we can continue to do well. So I would imagine it's just because he's bought himself a bunch of runway. How long is that going to last? I mean, that's another question. But I feel like, you know, Trubisky is the one that like sticks out like a sore thumb just because, you know, they didn't get a franchise QB. They traded up to go get him and when they didn't have to. And like there's all these things like swirling around. And it's funny because I mentioned this, like people talk about the Packers wasting Aaron Rodgers' prime. Like the Bears right now are wasting that defense's prime, right? In which like there's only so much money and so much time that you have to keep those men on the field at the same time. And like there's a window, right? There's a window and I don't know how much longer that's going to stay open for, but paying Jimmy Graham $16 million over 2 years is not going to help that window.
No. Well, it's weird to me. Why can't he just admit he's wrong? Why can't he, like, and maybe that means his job, I don't know. Maybe they're like, your job is paired to Trubisky. But it seems like what he should do, if he has any hope to save his job, is to say, look, hey, I was wrong. It simply has not worked with Mitchell Trubisky. He's very average. He's never popped. He's never turned into what we hoped he would. Is that a possible scenario where Ryan Pace, the Bears general manager, could just own that? Hey, Trubisky didn't work. We're looking for other options because we still want to win. Because I guess you're right. You can honestly say, other than the quarterback, maybe he's done good stuff otherwise. So you can make an argument for his job as long as you own that Trubisky was a failure, right?
I don't know. Is it a matter of like you've just kind of dug yourself into a hole too deep? Because I feel like they have acknowledged it without acknowledging it, right? Like they go out and get Nick Foles.
Yeah.
And they're paying him a bunch of money. They trade a 4th rounder for him. I mean, like, you don't do that when you're just like, I'm really happy with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
But, and like you and I talked about this, like, again, the actions are speaking louder than the words. And I feel like at this point, like everybody knows, right? It's just like that thing you don't talk about, and like everyone's like hush hush about it. Like they know, like we all know that Mitch Trubisky is not going to most likely be the QB next year of the Chicago Bears. Like it's not going to happen.
He shouldn't be.
He shouldn't be. And I think, the problem is too, is that if he comes out tomorrow and goes, you know what, guys, like we were wrong. We were wrong. Because right now they're 2-0. They're 2-0. Regardless of how bad they look, they're 2-0.
Yeah.
If they came out tomorrow and were like, Mitch Trubisky's not the answer, the next question is going to be, okay, well then what is? And you better pray it's Nick Foles, because then other than that, because you can't, even if you know you're going to suck this year, you can never go out and say, we're going to suck this year.
Yeah.
Like that's just not a viable option, but I'd be very curious to see what they're going to do in the draft. When it comes to the QB position, depending on where they are. But then again, you could also say the same thing about the Minnesota Vikings, which... oh, that's just the cherry on top of this wonderful cake.
I got a question, and I want to talk about the Packers game and how they're doing, but I want to ask first, how do you explain the bad years from Aaron Rodgers, where not necessarily he was bad, but the team around him was bad, and therefore the record at the end of the year was bad? I think, I made a whole video like Aaron Rodgers is no longer elite. I don't know if I would say that now, but I felt at the time like, how does an elite quarterback have a year where I think 5-11 or some horrible record? I'm like, how does that happen? How do you explain all that?
Well, Zachary, are
educate me,
wins, please. Are wins a QB stat?
No.
So in that sense, I mean, I will be very honest with you. We should have had more losing seasons. From 2011 to 2020. We had, two losing seasons under Aaron Rodgers, and one that he got hurt. And then there was 2 years ago, where he started the whole, but he messed up his knee in the first game against the Bears, what have you. And you look at this, in which I would argue 2014, they had a good defense. And then maybe last year they had a good defense. And again, good is also a very strong word in some cases, because the run defense wasn't there, or maybe some years the pass defense wasn't there. But to honestly sum it up in the quickest way possible, the 2010 season, we had an amazing defense, capitalized on turnovers, guys stepped up, it was incredible, we win a Super Bowl, right? 2011, we put one of the best offenses on the field in arguably NFL history. Like, the 2011 Packers are amazing during the regular season. We go 15-1. The defense is trash. Now, you have so many injuries, Charles Woodson, Nick Collins, they all leave, right? You have all these injuries, and they never get replaced. You have pass rushers who never get replaced, and they try. They they go out, and then later down the line, they get guys in 2015 like Demarius Randall or Quentin Rollins. They both bust out. You get a Ha-Ha Clinton Dix. He's no longer on the team. Like, they try to do this. They get Derek Sherrod as a pet. They get all these guys, and they don't pan out. Now, they get some great hits on it, like a David Bakhtiari, a Randall Cobb. They get some Davante Adams. They get some great picks. But at the same time, for me personally, how I'm looking at it is that defense never really gets addressed. They bring in Julius Peppers, right? So the 2014 season is pretty good. They get really, really, really close, and they should have been in the Super Bowl, but they fall short. And I think, for Rodgers, if you want to look at an elite QB, pull up the 2016 tape. The run the table season is Aaron Rodgers. That's no, and I know it's a team sport. That's nobody else. From that Philadelphia game all the way over to that Atlanta game, that is Aaron Rodgers just winning the football game, and he's just like, I'm literally going to do this. And
puts
I think
the team on his back.
Literally, there's a famous picture of him sitting in the locker room, slumped over, just oh, we did it, when they make the playoffs. And I think 2017 he gets injured.
Was that the year they beat the Cowboys?
He's not the same. Say again?
Was that the year they beat the
20
Cowboys?
Yep.
That incredible
Yep.
throw against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in the divisional round to
Yeah.
Jared Cook. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and then they go and they get blown the hell out by the Falcons.
Yeah.
And their defense, like, I think they were down at least like 3 scores by the time halftime came about.
Yeah.
And you know that's the kind of thing. Like, they get constantly blown out. I mean, you look at last year, right, in which Aaron Rodgers statistically wasn't amazing. Right, he still made some ridiculous throws, but he wasn't statistically amazing. I argue he wouldn't have to be. But then you look at 2019, they had no run defense. Like, the 49ers literally were like, we're just going to hand it to Mostert and win the game. And they did, and there was no adjustment. So I think, you know, it's not necessarily on Aaron Rodgers, and I'm kind of really happy that he came out week 1 and was just like, hey, I still got it, guys. Like, we're still good. And, you know, I think it kind of opened a lot of people's eyes. But for Packers fans who have been watching him for years and years and years now, you know, a year and a half where he wasn't himself, you know, the other half of the year he's injured. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can ever say he stopped being elite, but you could make an argument that the team just wasn't as good around him. He played injured and all that stuff. But, you know, also QBs have crappy years.
Yeah.
You know, that it happens. I think, you know, you can have an off year or something like that. But right now, Aaron Rodgers is playing some pretty damn good football.
So I want to ask you about that. On Sunday, maybe I'm remembering wrong. I remember just a couple missed throws that are
Yes.
uncharacteristic of Aaron Rodgers. Is that what you remember from Sunday?
Yes, there was a couple where he definitely missed
There's like
guys.
a bubble he just threw out of bounds. I'm like, that was weird. Like,
Yeah, there was some that he completely missed. There were some drops from wide receivers. LaFleur brought that up in the press conference. But yeah, that's what I'll say too. Like, you will definitely see. You saw this last year too, especially that Lions game, like week 17. You saw Rodgers miss some throws, like blatantly just miss throws. And I think that's like coming with age and all that stuff. It's also coming with, like, you know, very green wide receivers and you know, what have you. But I think that for every throw that he misses, you know, you have incredible throws and some just perfectly drop in the breadbasket kind of throws. And then it's not me defending him, because when Aaron Rodgers sucks, I call him out on it. Like, again, last year at point, like, I remember watching that week 17 game and I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is real bad. Like, he's missing a lot of throws. But then, like, he makes amazing throws to, like, Allen Lazard that, like, almost no QB can do. Yeah. So I think just, you know, the times of Aaron Rodgers putting the team on his back and being consistently from whistle to whistle, you know, the most consistent, not going to miss any throw kind of QB, I don't think that's around anymore. But that's because, you know, he's getting into his late 30s, what have you. But, I mean, the guy still has it. You know what I mean? It just, I think you're going to see some missed throws and missed opportunities in between them.
I have two thoughts. Number one is that it's cool the Packers. Rodgers can have a very average, okay day. Like, look, he was not bad, remotely bad on Sunday, right? He was pretty good. Mm-hmm. He just had a couple throws. I went, that's weird. But what's cool is the Packers they won 42-21 in spite of that. Like, they're still a good football team around Aaron Rodgers, which is so encouraging, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I said. So, like, week 1, it was the Aaron Rodgers show, right? 4 touchdowns, guys, it was incredible. And as soon as that game was over, I said, what I want to see in week 2 is I want to see a dominant run game, because I want to see them be able to fire on all cylinders. Because if you're going to beat a team like the 49ers pre-injury, if you're going to be a team like the Chiefs or be a team like the Ravens, you need to be more than a one-dimensional offense. And it seems, again, you know, it's only week 2. We're not jumping, you know, and he's saying, like, you know, making any proclamations. But right now, they're looking pretty damn good. The only concern I have is with the defense. And that's my only concern in terms of, like, the run defense. You know, Kenny Clark is obviously out, what have you. But I think Sunday is going to be a really good litmus test against the Saints, because you have Alvin Kamara, you have Latavius Murray. We'll see how they perform.
I think it's so cool, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers does the rest of his career, is he gave something to the game of football. You watch his footwork, and I've been watching a lot of film of Josh Allen literally all day. Josh Allen is doing Aaron Rodgers-like things with footwork, where he throws a ball down the right sideline to a former Viking, Stephon Diggs, and he does that thing where, like, you know, when Rodgers pops off that front foot, where he, like, kind of...
Yep.
Josh Allen does that exact move, and it's kind of, you know, Rodgers says he does that to protect his front leg. Watching Josh Allen do that was like, oh, that's cool, because that's partially Aaron Rodgers' legacy. Like, he innovated certain little things and technical parts of the game of football that are people are going to do for the rest of their careers and the rest of the game. As long as football exists, those little things that Rodgers kind of invented are always going to live on. That's so cool to me, is the nuances at quarterback that he kind of invented and innovated with. I just love that about A-Rod.
Yeah, it's one of the things besides all of that, like what he's given to football. He's recently been saying this a lot, and I feel like you and I talked about this maybe once, maybe during like the 4-hour interview that we did. When he was talking to, and now I remember, Bon Iver, like when he was talking, oh my God, I can't remember. Is it
That
Justin?
was right. He did an interview with Bon Iver at Lambeau Field, right?
It was at Lambeau, like in one of like the
Wild.
suites or something.
Yep.
You know, he mentioned winning the Super Bowl, and like he won it, and he's like, it was this amazing moment, and he's holding up the trophy, and he's like, but at that moment, like I realized like there has to be more than just this. And that wasn't like a knock against football.
Yeah.
That was, he said, that's when I really realized like it's not about like the trophy at the end, even though that's what you're trying to constantly get. It's about like the relationships and the team around you and how you relate to the guys and things like that.
Yeah.
And like for him to, and that's what he tells guys now who have come and gone from Green Bay. You know, like that's kind of the message that he's been putting out towards them. He goes like, listen, like this is finite, right? Eventually we're all going to stop playing football. And it's, you know, what are you going to have after that? And like that for me, I feel like is such a lesson, especially to give the young guys, you know, of just like enjoy this, make those relationships, form those bonds, because like at the end, you know, hopefully you have money, right? And hopefully you have success and fame or whatever, but like that's the stuff that like is going to transcend the game. And I'm just like, absolutely. Like that's what a fantastic message to get from the leader of your locker room.
Well, that's always been my favorite thing, and maybe shows tremendous wisdom from Gardner Minshew. Right, I met Gardner Minshew in college. We went to college together. Kind of weird. That's crazy to me, right? But he always, even in his year at Washington State, understood that there was no guarantee for Gardner Minshew to make it to the NFL and be successful. So his final year in college at Washington State, he said, "I'm going to enjoy every moment of this. My stupid mustache, whether I'm in the parking lot with people." He worked his butt off because part of what he wanted to get everything he could out of the experience. And part of that was winning and being successful. Part of that was enjoying it. And that balance is hard to find, and I've always really appreciated that about Gardner Minshew, is that he works his butt off, he's highly prepared, so he doesn't have nothing's lacking when it comes to on the field, but he also enjoys the moment, and he's very galvanizing as a player, and it's cool to hear Rodgers kind of, in his later years, really kind of come to appreciate that too, like, this is going to come to an end at some point, you never know when, enjoy the ride. I love hearing that about Rodgers.
Yeah. And again, like I think exactly like that's what you want, right? Because like we look at football, we enjoy it as entertainment and as a sport and what have you. And I think like there are times like you look at football and like it is a beautiful game. It's a very like violent, horrific game at times, but like it's a beautiful game. And for you to be able to like pull that out of that, you know, like so because some of these guys like literally they're gonna grow up and like this is gonna be like their second family or what have you, and you know that's. I don't know, like that's something that's like really, really cool to me that, you know, if you have someone that can like pass on that wisdom, yeah, I'm all about it.
I think football is unique in one way that, and you can get this in other sports for sure, but the life lessons you can learn through football, there are certain parts that are so unique to only football. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get the same experience about a team in golf, for example. And even in basketball, like one guy can dominate a lot more easily than you can have one guy dominate in football. Like there really has to be cohesion and teamwork, and there's so many little lessons you can learn. And that's honestly partially why I don't want to play anymore. Like I've come to realize, it's a pain in the butt to deal with other people and to collaborate that much. Like, and I just know myself, I don't want to deal with 18-year-olds anymore. And I just, there is so many infinite life lessons you can learn from football, I guess is my point. Did you see, go ahead, please.
No, it's funny. I think he mentioned something about this too. Like you look at like a Michael Jordan, right? Like the guy could play defense and could play offense. He could do both.
Yeah.
In football, you can't do both, right? Aaron Rodgers can play his tail off and put up 42 points, and they can still lose the game because he can't play defense. And I think it's like that faith that you have, and that the fact that you have to rely on another guy or guys to do their job. I don't know, like there's something really cool about that. You know what I mean? Like, and again, you find that in other sports most definitely. But like the fact that it's just like, I did my job, I go sit down now, and I really hope that this other guy does his job. Like I feel like that's a great way to like build a community or tear them apart if they suck. But like that's one of those things that I feel like you have those little like small pockets of like companionship within a team.
I hope we get an Aaron Rodgers documentary someday, and I hope it's actually not a football life, because a football life is great, but it's very cookie cutter and it's very nice and pretty and kind of perfect. Where I want to see like a maybe 30 for 30 or some independent separate entity could make a documentary about Aaron Rodgers to really, I want to hear his story and hear who he is and hear him tell. I want to hear an interview of Aaron Rodgers reminiscing on the past and like the draft and Brett Favre and Jordan Love. Maybe it's 10 years from now we get that. But how fun would that be? It'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
I have said this now ever since I really started this podcast, and I first got the question of like, if you were interviewing Aaron Rodgers, like what's the one question you would ask him? And a lot of people, you know, have asked him over the years about the draft, of falling in the first round, sitting behind Favre, and now about Jordan Love and defenses and stuff like that. And I wouldn't ask him any of that. Honestly, the question to me that I am dying to know, because I truly am fascinated by it. When Aaron Rodgers gets drafted by the Green Bay Packers, the fans hate him. And I mean hate with a capital H. They boo the ever-living crap out of him. And that's before he even takes the field. Then what winds up happening, right? Favre says he's retiring, so it's going to be Rodgers. Favre comes back. The fans these fans show up to training camp to boo Aaron Rodgers when he steps on the field. And for me, you know, he talks about this and talks about like the position that he's put in, and like it was miserable. Like he said, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It's miserable. And for me, like the number one question I would have is how do you rationalize and like want to become a member of this community that literally hated you? And how do you grow? And maybe that's just a maturity thing, in which like I don't know about like Zach, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but like if I am like legitimately hated by an entire community, there's definitely a part of me that's like, screw you then. Like I don't want to play for you. Right? Like I'm not going to take that contract extension. And you know, that could put the chip on the shoulder to make me play better and what have you. But like I just like that fascinates me, that he can not only play incredibly well, but on top of that, he does so much for the community. He does so much for the fan base. And like that's just fascinating to me, that the people literally who were just like booing the crap out of you, you can turn around and be like, here you go. Right? Like that to me is fascinating. Like, how do you mentally get over that? Is it just by playing well and shutting them up? You know, because then I feel like there's still like that little, and this is just obviously me, like there's still like that little like harboring of feelings of like, wait a minute, screw you. Like the only reason you're liking this is because I'm winning football games now.
You know, the only comparison I can come up with, because I think I can somewhat relate, like a little tiny bit. So you and I both, we talk about sports for a living. We get millions of views and we have lots of people that follow us. And so to some degree, doing our job causes us to get attention, and some of that's negative.
Sure.
And I don't know about you. I'm sure this is true for you too, though. I started doing this because I love sports. I love talking about football. It's my passion. I love it, right? Aaron Rodgers plays quarterback because he loves playing quarterback. And although we understand part of the job of playing quarterback and part of the job of being in the media is dealing with comments and dealing with people that are angry at you and that hate you, it doesn't make it fun. Nobody likes being the villain.
Correct.
And I know that I'm going through this weird thing. I'm just emotional turmoil for me where, you know, my job is to be honest about quarterbacks. I'm a quarterback analyst. And I've always looked at Justin Herbert on film and gone, I have a lot of questions and concerns.
Sure.
I'm very skeptical of him being successful. But I also want him to succeed. Like I root for him as a human being. And it's hard for me to not let the comments from angry Chargers fans get to me, where it like there's a little tiny part of me that if Justin Herbert fails, it's like, all those people that give me crap right now are going to eat their words later. But I also, that's like a dark thing I try to push down, because the reality is that those people aren't Justin Herbert. And I want Justin Herbert, the person, to succeed and make it and be a good quarterback. And I try not to let that negativity from other people taint my emotion towards Justin Herbert. But it's so hard to do. And I imagine that to some degree, Rodgers has wrestled with a little bit of that kind of, how do I not let my emotion towards this thing get tainted by this hate I'm getting by this other group of people.
Yeah. And you bring up YouTube, good old YouTube comments. Yeah. And I think it's also, I'm going to say this literally for like any analyst, right?
Yeah.
That what you're looking at is the tape that's presented to you, right? So if you, Zach Schaumler, are able to look at this tape and go, hey, I see this, and this, which I see as problematic. It's not a one-time thing. It's happening. Like, there's a pattern here. I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because of that, here's the conclusion I can draw from this.
Yeah.
Especially with rookie QBs, we've never seen them play a snap of NFL football.
Correct.
We watched Justin Herbert play the first ever NFL game, his first NFL game on Sunday, and he looked pretty good, right? He looked pretty solid. So, like, I feel like it's almost unfair because, like, you can look at this. So, like, last year, for example, I watched DK Metcalf tape. And I looked at that and I was like, here's what I don't like about DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf has gone on and looks like he is going to have a very successful NFL career. And I feel like, at the same time, sure, people go back and are like, oh, you were wrong about this one. Yeah, I was. Because I was looking at what was in front of me and I said, this is what I saw and this is my opinion. And that's it. So I feel like, YouTube comments are a beast in of itself. But the thing that like bothers me personally, because now we're gonna get into it, Zach. You wanted this to be like a 5-minute conversation. Now that we're going 6 hours now.
All right.
So, not to name names, we won't name names. So, a Packers beat writer made a comment about me a few months ago about how he didn't understand why so many people watched and followed my content, because I wasn't associated with the team. So he couldn't put that together. And it was basically a way of just like, hey, I'm a beat writer. I can go into the locker room, right? I have connections on the team, blah, 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 blah. How come more people aren't looking at me? And why are they looking at this guy who's sitting in his basement, right?
Yeah.
So that was basically the comment. And to me, like, that like pissed me off to no end because I'm looking at this and I was like, if anything, that's a poor reflection on you. Because if you have the connection to this team and the information that you're putting out there and people are still going, nah, we're going to go watch Grossi, that's a you problem. And I feel like, in the profession that we are in, regardless of what you say and what you do, there are going to be people out there. And you and I said this, like, I think we talked about this years ago, in which I said you can make the greatest apple pie in the world, right? And people will still not like apple pie.
Yep.
Some people are still not going to like apple pie. And that's something that I have definitely wrestled with over the years, because I'm like, why the hell don't you like it? It's delicious. And that's the thing. Like, there's just going to be some people that don't like you, that don't respect you, that don't appreciate you. And the problem is, and I know that you've dealt with it, and I most certainly have dealt with it, it's like trying to shut that out, because I still know I can get 100 positive comments, but there's going to be one a-hole in the comments, and I'm going to be like, that's the only comment I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Well, it's hard too. And I know that, look, I actually still have not slept yet from last night.
There you go.
Like, we pull crazy hours to get to do what we do. And look, happily, I have the best GD job on the world, like on the planet. I love my job, but it's hard. And when I'm grinding and some dude on YouTube is mad at me that like I mispronounced some name, I'm like, bro, like I'm literally like on 26th hour of the day for me. Like, I'm sorry, I mispronounced and forgot the silent K and the guy's like, whatever. It's like, dude, come on. Yeah. I think even what's worse, actually, if I may, I'm noticing that what's hard for me is when people, if you listen to my content enough, you can sense my heart. I think my heart comes through, and you can tell I mean well. I try really hard to be honest and fair. I'm really not a guy out to get anybody. I don't really make a lot of clickbait. My intention is never to be controversial. I think I do that enough organically by accident anyway.
Sure.
And when people make comments that, and I need to, it's maybe counseling I need for all this stuff, but it's like,
You and me both, buddy.
it's like I need to realize they don't know me. Like they looked at one thing or read a headline. They didn't even listen to my video. They don't know my heart, and they're not attacking my heart. They don't know anything about me. And for some reason, those are the comments that hurt me the most and really get to me. Is like when some guy attacks my morals or my principles. I'm like, no, you don't know me. It's like, well, of course they don't. I should remember that every time I get bothered by that.
Yeah, and like, but you know, the internet is such a fascinating beast.
Yeah.
In which, you know, like and again, this is not to be just like, you know, we're not Jesus carrying the cross here.
No.
Like we're not just being like we are better than brain surgeons here.
We
like,
have a silly, like, let's be honest. I feel like we work in entertainment and it's kind of meaningless, and I'm really glad it's meaningless because I can't imagine trying to cover like politics or something that have actual impact. It'd be so awful to me.
Exactly. But like at the same time, like, you know, anybody who puts themselves out there on the internet, right? Like they subject themselves to all of the reactions, positive and negative.
Yeah.
And I think unless you are fully prepared for that, which I don't really think you can be unless you just go through it year after year after year.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a toll. Like it takes a mental toll. And I think like it is very, very easy to like get sucked into like that circle of hate and like, you know, anger and all that crap of just like, well, it's like, screw you, man. Like you're saying all this crap about me. But how can you say that? Cause like you're talking, like yesterday, as you're talking about this, like I went to go do my job. I love all the people who are like, go get a real job. And I'm like, hey, I'm a teacher literally during a pandemic. So like I went from my job from 7 o'clock to 2:30. And then from 3 o'clock to midnight, I worked on this job.
Yeah.
Like that was my day yesterday. And then I got up at 5 o'clock and did it all over again. So, you know, for that, like, I feel like it's just like the frustrating thing. And I'm never expecting everyone to love me or anything like, or agree with me or anything like that. But yeah, like, I feel like there is a little bit of like no humanity in some of like the comments. Cause it's like, here's a talking head on my screen. I'm going to say he looks dumb or says something dumb or attack his morals and do whatever. And then I'm going to walk away from it. Right. And like, and there's times where I'm just like, I have to let it go. Like I have to step away from it because if I get too involved with it, like it's not going to end well.
Well, I imagine like I want to build a sustainable business, and because we got pretty popular pretty quickly, and I want to keep it going. I love what I do, and part of that means I have to get better at handling all this stuff. Like I understand that, and I think the more I do it, the better I'm getting slowly. And one of the parts of that is I think actually, when you see a comment that's meaningful to you or someone sends you a nice message, tell them that. Like, thank you so much for that. And then you want to be careful. Like, don't get too high. We talked about this at your house, you know, in February on that 4-hour-long show we did, where you can't get too high or too low. But it matters to, like, when people say nice stuff to you, I reward that as much as I can to say, like, hey, 100%. Man, hey, Damien from Slovakia, thank you so much for, like, that means a lot to me to get a nice message from someone who appreciates what I do. That's so cool to me. I try to go out of my way to appreciate that.
There is like, I want to say the kid couldn't have been older than like 11 years old. This happened last week. Yeah. I was doing the show with Ryan Grant, and I literally like, we're sitting there and we're calling ourselves something different every week.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think it was like, Grossi and Grant.
Grossi and Grant rants today. That's what it was. That's what it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But this 11-year-old kid, he suggested it, and I hearted the comment on YouTube. I thought it was a good name, whatever. He goes on Instagram, he tags me in it, and he's just like, oh my God, like Tom Grossi liked my comment, like this is amazing, thank you so much, whatever. And I was like, that was like the most wholesome shit that I needed to get through like this day of just like, you know, you hear that like over and over again, and especially the industries of like education and entertainment, it is a very thankless job. And I think, you know, like you said, those moments that you actually get like that praise of, you know, I'm sure you've gotten those as too of like, hey, you've helped me through some like really dark times, or you inspired me to like start a show. I had an 18-year-old kid comment, and it's because when I was running my marathon, he goes, you inspired me to run a marathon. So I was the youngest kid in my marathon in my hometown to run. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's incredible. And I think like that's the kind of stuff that you have to like hold on to, because for every like douchebag that's like in the comments, like a kid's running a marathon because of you. Like that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think remembering too, we all are involved, whether you're watching or listening or creating content, no matter who you are. We all are a part of this because we like sports. Like it all centers around love of football. Even the guy leaving a mean, angry comment, I don't know what's happening in that dude's day, and I'm sorry for that person, but they're still probably find joy in watching the Cowboys or watching the LA Chargers, like whatever it is, right? And it all centers around we love football, we love sports, and that's kind of the key thing we need to remember. And it's sad that doesn't bring us together more. But I just accept it. Like there are people that are angry. That's okay. I also know that it's true that the loudest people are usually the angriest. Like I look at the like to dislikes ratios, or the fact that my show's growing tremendously. I go, okay, a couple mad people do not reflect the majority of the people listening to all my stuff. So it's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I mean, like, and I've also kind of owned that a little bit. Like, I do rankings every week of like teams, and I literally am just like, this is an arbitrary show about arbitrary rankings that mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So if you're pissed off, I'm sorry. Go read other rankings. Like it's that simple.
Can I ask you a question? Because I did a topic. I keep getting asked to do power rankings, and I said no because I hope you don't watch this video ever and get like offended, because I actually try to give a shout out to you because some people do it because it's fun. But my big problem with power rankings when I was a kid growing up is that it felt like people on TV did it to create controversy and to try to get a mention about a team they don't normally talk about very often. What's your reasoning behind doing it? Because I know that you're not just trying to create controversy. You're not stirring up trouble. Like I think some people that are, I'm not going to mention any names of people that have started growing beards like me that do shows on network television, try to look even more like me. Next thing this dude's going to start doing is wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I'm telling you.
100%. And start a show. Oh, my.
If the Fox Sports people start doing that, I'm going to just go crazy.
We're done. We're contacting lawyers at this point. I honestly do it because I think it's a lot of fun. Like, and I got a comment literally not on this week's, but on last week's power rankings. And one of the top comments was like, this is one of the only comment sections for rankings that there isn't a ton of hate.
I love
and
that.
Someone just goes, yeah, because it's like logical. Because like that, and that's how I think I follow up with everything. If I make a comment, here's why I think that, right? Like, it's not just going to be like, the Seahawks are number 9 because I don't like them. Like there's never any of that. Maybe for the Vikings, but like there's never any of that. It's more of just like, here's my opinion. You could disagree with me. And I think, for me, I enjoy making it because I have a lot of fun with it. And at the same time, like it helps me engage with the community and I see like where their rankings are and what have you. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that. But no, like there's rankings out there that like last week had like the Saints at number 1 and like the Packers at number 10. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're all over the place. And like you said, it's clickbait crap to trying to just be like, oh, look how controversial this is. And no, like I'm making it because it's fun. I'm just like, here's where I see the NFL this week. Do you agree? No? Okay, that's cool.
Well, also, there's two things that are key to that. Number one is your tone. Literally, the way you deliver that is combative or is welcoming. But the other thing is I can really see it being fun as an exercise to ask yourself, who are the top 10 teams in the NFL and why? And if you have answers why, it's actually a fun exercise to figure out your beliefs. And it does, I'm sure, would teach you more. It forces you to get to know the league a little bit better.
Yes.
It's interesting to me. It's a fun exercise, if nothing else, right?
Yeah, no, it is very enjoyable because I'm just like, so like I did this with the Titans. So like I ranked the Titans like pretty low this week. Like, because again, for me, being able to watch some of their games, like they've squeaked out wins against teams that they shouldn't have really squeaked them out against. And I looked at that and I was like, you know what? But Ryan Tannehill had like a pretty damn good day. They don't have AJ Brown. So like I did that and I recorded it and I put it out there and I was like, you know what? Maybe they could be a little bit higher. So, and someone mentioned that and I was like, yeah, you know what? You could argue that they can definitely be higher here. But that's why like I started off with just like, these are arbitrary. This is going to change next week. And that's it. Like my opinion is just that. That's it. It is not gospel. It doesn't mean that that's set in stone. That doesn't mean that your team sucks forever or is amazing. This is a random guy in a basement just making power rankings for fun.
Well, it's discussion. It's a conversation. It's not, you're right, it's not the 10 Commandments. You're not laying down the law. That's so much more fun, too, because it's, what I think is interesting is hosting a conversation where everyone can, it's just, that's cool to me.
Yeah.
Tom,
I do it in the classroom.
what is the, you and I were texting earlier, and what the heck is the Iberian Peninsula?
So Zach on because these are worth reading. So Zach texted me and I texted him like, if we're still doing today and whatever. And so he said, is there anything that I want to talk about? And the first thing I said was social mobility in a traditional economy. And you just go, oh, fun. And then I said, if we have time, I'll bring up overfishing in the Iberian Peninsula. So the Iberian Peninsula is where Spain and Portugal are.
Okay.
And I just made up that there was an overfishing problem, but literally before I went on this show, I found out that the common trout is actually starting to get endangered, and they think that the population is going to be halved by 2040. So, you know what? Me making that up, now I was glad that I'm able to talk about the overfishing problem in the Iberian Peninsula. I'm just gonna bring up random facts.
Tom, is the apocalypse
during
coming?
this.
I looked at the thing on Washington Post
Buddy,
today. It
it's
said we
here.
have 7 years. It said that we had like 7 years and 102 days, and I was like, oh crap, carbon or something, right? Like I don't want to think about it. I'm gonna move to Hawaii and live off rainwater and just leave me alone, please.
You know what? At this point, though, I'm looking at it of like, you know what? I'll do a play-by-play when the asteroid comes.
You live stream it, bro.
I'll live stream it. I'll be like, thank you for the $3 donation. Currently in an underground bunker, but have great Ethernet. Like I'm gonna do it, and we can just watch it together, and there'll be a community, and there'll still be some a-hole going, ha ha, owning the liberals with the asteroid. Like it's still gonna happen, and I'm just gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, let's just all go down in a thing of flames, and like that, and that's the thing too, like. And this will be the last thing, I promise.
No, I'm not in any hurry. It's fun for me.
Like this summer, obviously, like there was a lot going on in the world, and it leaked into the football world too, like a lot. And I have no problem. I did this years ago, and I did it this year. Like I spoke up about how I felt about it, especially when it's like literally brushing and hitting into football. And it's one of those things that I understand the people who go, I am watching your show for an escape, and I like that I can provide that to people, and that's kind of like the Jim Carrey, I give you that freedom from concern kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I always love that, and I think I always try to do it. But I think also, and why I enjoy the community so much is because the people who are here know, like, when I'm talking about something, like, it's serious enough to talk about. And I've gotten to the point where I made videos where I was at like 98.7 thousand subscribers, working for 100,000, like working my ass off to get to that 5 days a week for over a year straight, what have you. And I'm like, if I lose subscribers for this, I lose subscribers for it. And I think like, I have had so many amazing conversations with people who we are completely on different sides of the political arena, like completely different sides. And you're talking about football being a unifying thing. Unfortunately, not as much nowadays, I think. But it really can bring people together. And I feel like, having conversations about like these topics, it is good. And it like, that's the only way there's going to be any type of progress. Because if we're just like, hey, screw you because you think that, like that doesn't help anybody. And I feel like that, with the platforms that we have, even though like I will still say like, if people ask me, I'm like, do you think you're famous? Absolutely not. I'm literally a nobody in my basement. But, for the platforms that we have, like, I think if we don't utilize them to try and do something good, for me, then I don't want the platform.
I do that with suicide a lot too. I talk about suicide prevention all the time. I got a really cool recommendation from somebody. I've never told this story. I really don't talk about it. I've never said this publicly. I got a pretty big job offer from a sizable network, and I turned it down. And I lost out on some income from it, but I got more freedom because of it, and I was happy with it. But the best advice they gave me, they're very kind. I mean, they really understood my position, and they said, no matter what you do, just don't stop being yourself. They said the reason why your show works is because you are unapologetically who you are. You don't try to be anything else. You're just being yourself, and that's why we wanted to hire you. And I really... That was a couple months ago, and I've been trying to stick by that for a long time because that's so important to me. And I think you have to, no matter what your message is, be yourself. And that's so key to what we do. I don't know, I hope I don't just sound like a bunch of self-congratulatory assholes like hanging out on the internet, but I really those are some of my core values, man, and they're important to me, and they're central to who we are as broadcasters.
I mean, like I got a sponsorship offer, and and it was a good amount of money.
Sure.
And in it, it was like, just try to be genuine. And I read that sentence and I was like, nope, nope. Like, I'm like, that is like the grossest crap, because like, I think that's what draws people to our shows, right?
Yeah.
Like it's you, right? Like they're watching you for you. Yes, your takes and all that stuff, but people can get takes anywhere, right? They can go watch film analysis anywhere. But they come for you and they stay for you. And I think that like that's amazing advice. And the minute that you start being the make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe and like, just like the fake happy all the time bullshit of just like everything is rainbows and puppies. Like there's so much of that crap. And like when people turn off the camera, they're a completely different person. I'm like, no, like I streamed the draft for 6 hours. Like I can't fake it that long. Right? Like it's literally like this is me. Like if you meet me in a street somewhere, this is what you're gonna get. And I think like that, that genuine like here's who I am, accept me or not. I think that draws people in, and it keeps people there. And people try to use that as like a marketing technique or whatever. But I really, really enjoy that while yes, you can expose yourself and be like here, like to all the hate and all the love. It also gives you a chance to be like, this is who I am. And if people accept that, that's a pretty cool feeling.
I don't know if you've ever, I have no idea if you've ever worked with Manscaped, but they are kind of my favorite sponsor to work with. And this is not sponsored by them, obviously, but they're worth giving a shout out to because I liked working with them because they didn't give me a script. They didn't give me anything to say. They said, here's a promo code, use our product, talk about it. And so I just was able to be myself, and I probably made really dry. I'm not very funny, like boring, just me genuinely saying like, yeah, I shave my balls with this thing that really helps me. Like, and that's me just being myself. And I know that I just have to do it that way. And I've turned down a lot of money from, look, money has been really tight. This stupid COVID-19 has effed me in a lot of ways. I was going to move across the country. That is not going to happen, obviously. Like a lot of things have gone wrong. And one of my hardest moments was when I was getting a lot of money offered from, a lot's probably the wrong word there, but I was getting money offered from a sponsor in the world of betting. And one of my principles is I just don't promote gambling and betting. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not who I am. I don't want to do that. And I've had people go like, are you an idiot? Like you're turning down money because you won't talk about gambling? Everyone does. And I go, yeah, but that's not who I am. And I refuse to promote something I don't believe in and don't partake in. I know that's weird, but I don't know if you're similar, but gambling's one I just don't go over the line on.
No, we are literally, I've had the exact same conversation. So for example, so the Ryan Grant show that we do, that was set up by like the Believe network. Like it's a podcast network. They're the ones who set up the show. They got me in contact with Ryan, what have you. And I'm able to put it on YouTube, and they're like, we have a gambling sponsor. And I said that there will never be a time where I sponsor that on my YouTube channel. Like, if you want me to do that for you, like your own little network, just for the audio, that's fine. I don't care about that. That's fine. But for my viewers who come to me, because again, I have some young kids that watch. There will never be a minute that I promote gambling. Not even a second. Because again, like you said, unless it's a product that I use, like I just took like one of my first sponsors, and that's from Squarespace. If we're all totally about it, and that's just because I've used them for 6 years. Like so so no one's gonna be like, oh, you're selling out. Every time I say TomGrossiComedy.com, that's Squarespace. Like that's what it is. So like I have no problem promoting that. But no, I'm the same exact way. Like I'm not gonna do Raid Shadow Legends. I'm sorry. Like there's no way that I'm gonna download that and be like, oh man, my paladin is real good. You should join today and join in the fight. No, don't do it.
Have you ever heard the Bill Burr Nature Box promotion?
Yes.
I hope it would be like, yeah, I got this stupid app. It sucks. I hate it. But they paid me money, so I have to talk about it for $40. Like,
Yep. Yeah, that's like that. That's essentially what it would be. And like that's the thing too, like those companies offer like a crap ton of money.
I know.
And they're just like, here, read this terrible script word for word. And I'm just like, no, I physically can't do that.
I felt bad. I know a guy who, I'm not going to say his name, he's on YouTube. He had to do one because he's got to pay the bills. And like, I get it. And I think if you're going to do one, Raid Shadow Legends is a pretty good one, at least. If you're going to cross a line for a crappy advertiser, at least that one's like I can excuse that one, you know?
At least they'll pay you well.
Yeah, thank God, right? Like, you got to pay your bills. I totally get it. I just know that if I don't have to, no matter what, though, the gambling one's one, I will lose my job before I do gambling. I just don't have any.
Yep.
I won't promote it. It's not who I am. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Like, my dad always tells me, my dad works as kind of in a somewhat of a capacity of my agent. My dad always says, like, hey, don't make blanket statements. Like, be very careful because you never know if you change your mind someday. But that's when I don't think I ever see myself changing my mind on. And he even supports that. He's like, yeah, you can just say you're never going to do it because you never are.
Yeah.
I've never gambled. Have you ever gambled?
It's like besides like my buddy who I bet $50 for the Super Bowl with. Every year,
I'm not
that's
talking
it.
like,
No, like literally.
candy.
That's
Was
it.
it candy? What's the word? Candy poker. You ever done that? That's fun, but
Nope. No, I don't do like I've gotten stuff from like DraftKings, my bookie. I'm like, nope.
yeah.
Not gonna, because again, like one, I don't do. If I was an avid gambler and like I'm just like, oh man, I'm always on DraftKings because I'm looking to make a buck, then you know what? I'd use it and I'd be like, sure, let me promote this. But I don't do it, and especially if there's younger people out there, there's no way that I'm gonna promote this product. One, if I don't use it, and two, if like again, I don't want to talk to a 13-year-old and go, hey, use money to gamble. That's just not.
Hey, you know what? I did one time. One time I did a bet online thing. It wasn't really a sponsor, but it was talking about a bet online food thing where the reason I did it was because it allowed me to talk to this guy. What's his name? Badlands Chugs. Ever heard of that guy?
No.
He's this gigantic, massive human being. He'll chug like literally like 3, 2-liter bottles of Coke in one sitting. You're like, he'll sit on camera in his stupid car, open a gigantic, like, those 2 liters you get with your pizza.
Yeah.
Drink a whole one in like one gulp, put it down really hard, empty, pound another one, put it on empty, pound a third one. And you're like, this dude did that in his car? I can't even. So I really wanted to talk to this guy. And so to do it, he's a competitive eater. I had to talk about the Bet Online quarantine challenge. And I was like, fine. Like, I want to talk to Badlands Chug because I remember seeing him in a YouTube video. Like, I'll do it. Like, can I talk to this guy? It was so wild and cool. And he was a fun conversation. Like, weird tangent, but I thought that's the one time I've ever done it now that I think about it. Because I'm like looking back, I'm like, should I delete that? I don't know. But it was a fun conversation.
Well, like, that's the thing. Like, again, like, every week for like the Ryan Grant thing, like I'm doing that for the Believe Network, like for their own little thing. Like it's a gambling sponsorship, but I go, it will never touch YouTube. It will never go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where like, the amount of my audience is. And I told them that straight up. I go, I will not do a sponsorship if that's the case. Like the show will not work. I will leave the show. Like we're not going to do it. And they were totally cool with it. So I was like, okay.
That's awesome. Tom, you got anything else? I love doing this, man. It means so much to me. Like it's football friends is what I call it. Like we're just hanging out.
Football with friends. Yeah, no. Anything else? Packers are going to win on Sunday.
Who do you guys play? I don't know.
Saints. Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, you guys might just win, actually. Where is it?
It's in New Orleans.
I still feel pretty good about that, though, to be honest.
It's funny because I'm really, really, really excited, of course, for Sunday night's game.
Yeah.
But I almost am more excited, if not equally excited, for Monday night's game. Like, that's going to be phenomenal.
What's Monday night?
Ravens and Chiefs.
Oh my goodness.
I cannot I'm like can't wait for the Packers, of course, but oh my god, Monday's gonna be so good.
You know what I'm excited about is I get to talk about. I always try to talk about the primetime games.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be forced to watch the Packers on Sunday night. That's awesome. And then, dude, Monday Night Football's been awful this year. Like it's really not been good, and it's not been good for quite a while. I mean, I know I'd probably go at some point, but the weird music at halftime on Monday Night Football makes no sense to me. Like, this isn't the Super Bowl. Who's tuning in for the music at halftime? It never fits. It's effing weird. Like, I just
never
listen, like
Zach. Listen. There is one great thing about Monday Night Football, and that is the commercial that has been airing for the past few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that's been pretty good because every single time it comes on, my phone blows up, and somehow, some way, people go, "Is that you?" I'm like, "I've talked about this for 4 weeks." So,
dude, every time I see that commercial, I go, "I've sat on that couch."
That's the couch. That is. I would say that's arguably one of the most famous couches on the internet. The next famous couch there. We don't need to say that one,
but we don't need to say the most famous couch on the internet. Everyone's thinking it.
I literally I'm dreading because like I'm looking to hopefully move like next year.
Sure.
And like that couch, like you saw it because
It's
like
trash,
Dash
man.
like
Yeah.
ate the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like so like there's like duct tape on
Well,
it.
looks like a
and stuff.
dog ate the middle of it. Is that what happened?
It did because that's what happened. So and like so I'm just like, all right, I can't take this couch with me because like it's like shot. But I'm like, I have to find a couch that looks exactly like it because like with that, like I can't show up on like a plaid couch like for my next reaction video. People are like, nope, unsubscribe. Like we're done. That's the line.
I don't think the couch is the draw, bro. I don't think.
Listen, you'd be surprised. People have drawn pictures of my couch as fan art. So you know, I don't know, man. Like that I'm just one couch away from losing it all.
I will say, and I know we. The funny thing about Monday Night Football this year is that we thought we got rid of Booger McFarland, and then he's there every halftime show, and I'm like.
He's like, you thought you could get rid of me. I ain't going anywhere.
Dude, he's so bad. I feel bad for him. Like, I know it's mean. Like, the rules, you're not supposed to talk bad about other broadcasters, but he's so bad.
He's bad.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'll ask you. So, and I promise this will be the last thing as we say that for the past 45 minutes.
I'm in no hurry. I just like talking to you.
So, all right. If you are offered a job as a commentator, do you take that job?
I do both, yeah. I can do both pretty easily. 100%. Because what people don't realize about doing the commentator job, from my side, a lot of it's just reacting to the game live, which I've done that job before. I've done play-by-play. It's what am I saying? I guess analyst, where you have a color commentator saying what's happening. Your job is to go, that's cover 2. That's got to be a better ball into the corner. And so what I would do if I was doing an NFL game every week, I would just, I got to research the 2 teams playing, know their personnel really well, know what schemes they run. That's about a day's worth of work. Do that on a Friday, broadcast the game on Sunday, bang, knock it out. I mean, I could very easily do that and probably travel and record the show because I'd get way more money, so I could travel and do the show in my hotel room. And the way, I mean, you see certain people do that, and I'm like, I could very easily do my podcast that way. So yeah, 100% I would take that job, but I also would never give up YouTube either. If it had to pick one, I'd pick YouTube.
Yeah. Like that's the thing I struggle with, right? Because like I love the YouTube gives you something, like the fact that like you and I have so much control over the content that we put out. And not making us like control freaks, but the idea of just like
we don't have to answer to anybody.
And that for me, like it's a dream. Right? Yeah. Like I'm my own boss. I decide the content that I want to make and I put it out. Like it's that simple. And I love that. And like I'm looking at this and I'm like, why in God's name would I ever give that up? Like to go do whatever else?
Well, people don't realize, I think almost nobody knows this, right? First of all, I played college football. That's something nobody knows. Number 2, I worked for Fox Sports. I worked for ESPN. I worked for Pac-12 Network. I was on the sideline. I was in meetings for college football game day. Like I literally worked on ESPN's college game day. I've been to those meetings. And I had so many problems and disagreements with the way things were done, and I couldn't speak up. I couldn't do anything about it. And I always thought if I was in control, I'd do it differently. And now that I am in control, I'm like, I'm never giving that up. It goes back to like, if you can be the starting quarterback, why would you want to ever go somewhere where you're a backup? It doesn't make any sense. You like running the show. It's more fun. Yeah. I want to say, I said some mean stuff about Booger McFarland. I do want to back that up because I think what's the worst thing you can do is say why a guy's bad without saying why. What drives me nuts about Booger McFarland, God bless him, I think he's got a good heart. He's not a bad person. He so often says random things and never explains them. It's like, dude, you can't just say, well, that's a good throw. It's like, why is that a good throw? What about it? Was it the location? Was it the timing? What? And he just so often says like, oh, that team's going to win the division. It's like, but why? He never, ever offers the why part of anything. He just makes all these weird claims. And I'm like, dude, what's happening? Are you having an aneurysm? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I feel like we could also just be like, professional to professional, this is what I think you could improve upon, right? And like, and to be like you said, he's probably a great person. He's probably a really nice guy.
He seems like it, right? He's got a good heart.
He seems like a really nice guy. Seems like a fun guy to be around. It's just like when it comes to play calling, this is what I don't like.
Yeah.
And yeah, no,
and also just to be clear, it's a hard job. And I broadcasted Cal versus Washington State last year. I broadcasted Washington State versus Utah last year. There are moments where it's hard, but I don't know, man. I think the harder job is the play-by-play. The analyst job is much easier. The play-by-play has to be like, and the quarterback rolls out to the right. You got to remember right and left. You got to remember like certain words, bootleg. It's way harder. To say like, hey, here's what happened and here's why that happened in like a couple words. For me, that's way easier. And I don't know. It's a different job. And I think an analyst has to be Tony Romo. Is Tony Romo not the best analyst you've ever heard?
Oh my God, I love it. I love watching and listening to Tony Romo because like and the thing is like he also simplifies it too. Like you don't know how to know football, but like he literally like you'll have the offense comes at the line and he's like he'll draw it on the screen. He's like, this receiver is gonna go this way, this receiver is gonna go this way, and like they just do it. I'm like, that's incredible.
There's a really intense, really helpful skills if you can translate football into common language that anybody can understand. If my mom can understand what you're talking about, or my dad, God bless my dad, knows nothing about football. If my dad can understand what I'm talking about, I'm probably doing something right. That's how I judge all my, like when I write a film analysis video, I always try to put it in words my dad could understand. And Tony does that. How lucky were we that when we got Justin Herbert's first game in the NFL, Tony Romo was broadcasting it. Like people think I hate Justin Herbert. I don't. And I think it's so special that moment was Tony Romo calling the game. It's like, oh my gosh, what an unbelievable, lucky thing to have happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, he's probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite one right now, just because he's so good. He's on another level, and he offers something that others don't. And I think that's what I enjoy about him the most. Like, a lot of people like hate on like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and stuff like that. And I think just like with Tony Romo, when you watch it, you're like, I'm not only watching football, like I'm going to learn something today.
Well, also you like him. He's so likable.
He is.
You're hanging out with a friend, it feels like. The other guy who deserves a shout out, we'll hang up at some point. Joel Klatt, who does college football, is phenomenal. I really like him as well. I tend to agree with him on everything he says. I go, wow, Joel Klatt knows what he's talking about, and I really love him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when you have that in which like normal people are like, casual fans are just like, wow, like that taught me something today. Like you're doing your job correctly. 100%.
Tom, do you have anything else? I love you so much, man.
I think we did it. I think
an hour and 10 minutes might be long enough.
We'll talk about traditional economies and their sustainability next week. We'll potentially talk about what's going on with the Aegean Sea. We'll cover that next week, but I feel like we just have to like leave them wanting more.
I want mango farms. That's what I want to hear about.
I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Mango farms. I got you.
Thank you.
I got you.
Tom, love you, man. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and talk to you next week.
You too, broski. Take care.
Guys, that is all I have. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Football Friends with Tom and Brett. Hope you have a great day. I really just love you guys so much. I'm grateful you tune in. It means a lot to me. I'm doing the best I can, man. I love what I'm doing, and I really appreciate that you guys watch and listen. I love my job so much, and it just means the world to me. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Ba-dum-bum. Bam. We are done.